My Adventures with Superman is such a fun show with a lot of great ideas and potential, and I absolutely love it. I just have one issue with it. The episodes are too short, and episode 6 is a perfect example of my point. Right off the bat, I want to say how much I love this show's characterization of Superman. The way he sees the world and responds to situations is just pure Superman. And the series is doing a great job of showing us his progression as he unlocks more powers and knowledge about himself.
How did you know you'd be bulletproof?
I didn't. I just knew that you weren't.
Everything in this show revolves around Superman, so I'm so glad that the core of this show is so spot on. Superman's genuine earnestness is truly felt in the tone of this show and makes it the perfect comfort watch. Now let's get into what I'm sure will be the main talking point about this episode: the resolution of Clark and Lois's fallout at the end of episode 5. The writers had two options here as far as I'm concerned. They had the choice to drag out this conflict for a few episodes before bringing them together again, or they could rip the band-aid off and get it out of the way. They went with ripping the band-aid off, and I'm personally not mad at it. They had a lot to unpack after the ending of episode 5, and I still think they will unpack more in later episodes because while the conflict is resolved, some of the behavior from both Clark and especially Lois needs further contextualizing in my opinion, but I absolutely love how they explained Lois's pain with one simple line.
What else do you need to know?
Did you lie about your feelings for me? Everything you said to me, what? Was it all just a cover for you?
Lois,
Lois being more upset at Clark for potentially leading her on, and doubting whether he truly cared for her is far more understandable and fair, especially given her past relationships with the men in her life, than being mad at him solely for not telling her something deeply life-altering and personal. While I didn't entirely agree with Lois's behavior, it can most likely be understood even further if they expand on her relationship with her father, as well as her mother's death, and explain why she is so passionately against lying and so zealous about finding the truth. The issue is these episodes are really rushing by, and I'm fearful of them not being able to flesh out these characters as much as they'd probably like to, but kudos to the writers for giving so much insight into the character with just one line. In an episode featuring two male lovers being forced into hiding because they didn't trust how the world would treat them, it becomes clear that Clark revealing himself as Superman is an allegory for coming out. And to frame Superman revealing his true identity this way is quite ambitious and really admirable. And Superman's line at the end of the episode is such a beautiful, touching, important message about hope and humanity to convey to the viewer. It's a genuinely great Superman moment.
I have to stay. I have to believe this world can be a place where everyone's accepted, and I need to help it get there. With the people I love.
The standout from this episode was Jimmy Olsen. I'm really enjoying this show's version of Jimmy, and this episode just makes him even more likable. We find out that Jimmy knew the whole time that Clark was Superman, and I could rave about how much I love this reveal for hours, but I'll keep it short. From the beginning of the show, we've known this Jimmy to be someone who is obsessed with alien conspiracies and obsessed with growing his Flamebird YouTube channel. The fact that he knew this whole time that Clark was Superman and didn't do anything whatsoever to invade his friend's privacy or take advantage of this knowledge for the sake of growing his social media presence, which as we've seen matters a lot to him, just goes to show how good a person and friend he is. The way he nonchalantly explains that he wanted to give Clark space and let him come out on his own terms goes to show how truly caring he is.
I didn't say anything because it seemed like a sensitive subject. So I thought that if I waited, you would tell me when you were ready.
But the aspect of this reveal that I love the most is that Jimmy agreed to help Lois find out who Superman is, but all the while, he didn't feel the need to share any information that wasn't his to share. He knew the truth, but he joined Lois on her investigations. Why? Because he just loved spending time with his friends. Not only does this add so much depth to Jimmy as a character, but it also makes the scenes where he's waiting on Lois and Clark to respond to him all the more shattering. This show is great, but like I said, my only issue is how short the episodes are. The short episode and season length is making the overall narrative feel a little rushed. They seem to have a great idea for the story they want to tell with these characters, but everything feels compressed in a way that undermines the weight of what these characters are going through. The main thing is that these characters and their relationship with each other is very endearing, and the writers are doing a good job of developing them with the very little time they have to do so. Episode 6 felt a little rushed to me, but overall it was still really enjoyable and yet another solid episode in what is turning out to be a great series.